moons ago, back in about 2008, I started doing bulk REOs. And I was buying these bulk packages where you'd get like 15, 20 homes at a time. You'd seller finance them out to people with $500 down, $350 a month. And the whole idea was that we would sell these notes. Well, it wasn't working. It was a great idea, but all of a sudden my capital was all tied up in these notes and I didn't know how to get rid of the notes to re-liquidate my capital. And I was talking to a friend and he says, well, you got to talk to the best in the industry. And he made a connection with Eddie. And so I think we're almost at 10 years now. And Eddie and I have been in the same circle of investors, people who are leaders in the industry. And like I mentioned earlier, when we ask for Eddie to come and talk about notes, they don't send anybody but Eddie because we deserve him. So Eddie has been doing notes for over 30 years. He does note school, so he teaches you. He has Colonial Fund, so if you get into notes and you realize, you know what, I really don't want to do this, but I want my money to play with the notes, he does that. And I'm going to tell you something. He is going to give you so much information tonight that is going to be so valuable, you're going to realize, wow, this is something I want. And then some of you are going to go, okay, what's the catch? Why is he giving so much information? Do you think that if he gives you so much value tonight, it would be okay if he tells you how you can learn more? Yes? So if he tells you all this stuff and you think, I want to know more, would it be okay if he tells you how? Okay, so he's going to tell you how on Saturday. And you know what? Do you think you can learn everything you need to know, 30 years worth of stuff on Saturday? Do you think it would be okay if you want to go forward to learn how you can go forward to the next level? Of course, right? We all agree with that. So in exchange for him giving you this information tonight, let's give him your attention and your honest opinion on whether this is for you and you want to move forward by investing in your education for Saturday and if you want to go on to the next one. So let's give, oh, I have one more thing. Martha, his wife, is here. They are celebrating their 35th anniversary on Monday. Wow. I could make a joke that that's because you were on the road the whole time, but I'll leave that one for you. Eddie, come on up. Let's give him a round. Stand up.
Okay, so how many of you have heard me speak before? I've been to San Jose many times, okay? Well, really, that's about 25 or 30% of the room, and the rest of you. So I'm Southern. It's true. I live in Texas. Martha and I were both raised in Mississippi. Martha's dad, when I was 20 years old, got me started, and he was one of the pioneers of buying seller finance notes in the entire United States. And really, there was no industry back then, and he and a partner were kind of like the guys, not just in Mississippi, but really all over the South in doing this. So I really fell into this business totally by accident. I wasn't a smart investor like you've shown up here tonight. You're looking to expand your knowledge and alternatives and look for a value buy. I've had several conversations. Tom and I had a great lunch the other day. We talked about value. Spent about a half a day with the founder and one of the guys that runs SJREI services today. We talked about value. So there's a lot to be said about this market that we're in. Tom, that was a great summary that you gave of the economy. And I deal in a subset of the economy. It's called the note space. And particularly I deal in, whoops, did I mess up here? Well, Lori?
Oh, Philip, you need to switch.
We got to flip to the other one. He'll get it.
Yeah, there you go.
So we're going to talk a little bit tonight about the global, and then we're going to talk more specifically as we come on Saturday, and we have these 3-day classes. So we have lots of opportunities to kind of talk about specialized fields of the business. And people ask me, why notes? Why would I want to do notes? So I'm going to ask you a question. If all things were equal, would you rather be a landlord or the bank? I have asked that question to a room full of people enamored with owning rent property for the last 10 years, and I virtually have never heard another say it. Now, I said all things being equal, right? So that there's a lot of variables. That's what Note School does, is help people understand that. And so here's kind of the 4 biggest misconceptions that we see in the notes. First of all, is there inventory? Okay? And it depends on what segment in the market that you're looking as to how you would source the inventory and evaluate the inventory. But I'm going to make a statement to you. I started buying seller finance notes in 1980. Okay? I set up the note system. I see Mark McKellar's got his table back there. I set up the note system for Home Investors of America in the early 1990s, teaching franchisees for home investors how to go create seller finance notes correctly so that they could immediately then resell those notes in the secondary market. So I have had a lot of runs in this business for a long time, and I can tell you with 1,000% integrity, there is a gap in the market right now that is the biggest gap, a market inefficiency that notes is going to fill that I believe I've ever seen in 37 years of doing this. And you live in a bubble. You live in a market. Am I right, Richard? You live in a bubble here. And you guys don't realize what that means to you, but you could buy 10 notes in nice working class neighborhoods, the same quality of neighborhood that you buy one rent house here. You could buy notes that are paying every month in different markets, 10 of them, for what one rent house might cost you here. So there is a crazy opportunity as we progress in this in understanding underserved markets. We, entrepreneurs, real estate entrepreneurs, make the most money, Tom, when there is an inefficiency in the market. The reason you buy discount is because somebody else is messed up, right? And so there are some really underserved markets, and as we progress in that, we'll talk about that. So, phenomenal inventory. Secondly, can anyone do this? Listen, the IQ of this audience is probably the highest of any REI I speak to. That's why I really come forward to tell you the truth, is that these are the smartest people I know in this business, and you have high income. Can you do this? If you can learn to buy a rent house, there's nothing that Eddie Speed doesn't know how to do. Now, as we progress on Saturday and into these classes that we do, I think you're going to learn that you may have high IQ, but you don't necessarily have high experience. We're going to take your incredible high IQ, and we're going to show you some creativity, and that together is very powerful. So can you do this? Of course you can. Can you do it if you don't have a lot of money? So as you progress, I'm going to show you some incredible leveraging techniques. And some of that leveraging technique would be beneficial to you even if you personally have a lot of money. And I'm going to tell you some stories on Saturday how my wife Martha does this and does it for our kids and has grown terrific net worth in their Roth IRA accounts when they didn't start out with a huge amount of seed capital. So leveraging can be very important to you and the ones that you care about. Even if you're sitting on some dry cash you need to invest. So there's different ways of looking at that. And then, how do I tie this in with my current real estate? I made a statement when I had lunch with Tom a couple of weeks ago. I've told Richard this 100 times, if not 500. If a real estate investor truly has no knowledge, their creativity goes way over the top. And I truly believe that. So how do I tie this in my current real estate investing? I'm not trying to drag you out of what you're doing. I'm trying to bolt on a market opportunity that is not pursued as much as it should be, because a lot of real estate investors go, well, I don't want to be a note guy. I'm a real estate guy. Does it matter? Does it change? Richard, does it change the color of the money? You didn't know. And so there are windows of opportunities, and the note window of opportunity is much wider, in my humble opinion. The note window opportunity right now is much wider than just sticking traditional real estate alone. And that doesn't mean that you don't do other real estate activities. It just means that you can diversify, and this is an excellent way to do it. Okay, so the growth of the progression of a real estate investor. This is the sexiest subject on TV. Being a house flipper. Bird dogging. That guy will never get wealthy doing this. And they make it sound like, am I right, Tom? And they make it sound like the sexiest thing you've ever seen in your life. Bird dogging. Let me tell you what happens to you when real estate investing gets tight. The guy that gets pinched the most is the bird dog. Because if there's no margin between wholesale and retail, the bird dog gets it bitten out of his booty. Secondly, is a wholesaler. Okay, now he has a little more work and he has a little more opportunity. And this is a great business, but it's a timing thing. And the timing of this market right now is not terribly good. Listen, I've trained more mega seasoned real estate investors how to do notes than probably anybody in America. I know most of the top, but Lori would tell you, we were in a mastermind group with 125 real estate investors, and I'll guarantee you 75 of them were the rock stars in whatever town they lived in. They were rock star real estate investors. They're all complaining right now about margin. Landlord, my father-in-law was, or fix and flip is cool. Fix and flip's a good business. I never meet an old fix and flip guy that says, man, when we go on vacation, I just want to manage some more contractors. I'm just saying. Landlording is a great business, but it's a get-rich-slow business. And Richard has done really well at it, but he's shaking his head because he knows that this is a true statement. This is a slow wealth builder, and it doesn't mean it's a bad business, but there's some diversification you could consider right now to taking some of your energy, time, and capital and resources and positioning in the note space, because it is a faster horse in the barn right now for the next few years. And I don't sell get rich quick, so I'm not saying that. The cat daddy of every real estate investor is the deal architect. He's the guy. So what does this guy do, and why does he do it? Why does the deal architect do it? And that is, first of all, he makes the most money because he realizes market voids and opportunities. He pursues things. He's not following the herd. He's leading his own way. Okay? So the first thing is he makes more money because he recognizes what an opportunity is. Secondly, he has the most security. Okay? And it's very interesting. How many of you owned real estate in 2007? Owned something other than your house. How many of you own real estate? Does this bullet have any relevance to you today? Because when the market crashes and things are falling out between your fingers and you can't stop it, security, it means a lot. And there's lots of ways to position yourself where you've got the most security in the money you have invested. So that means naturally they have the least risk. And I think there's a lot of seasoned people in this room that would say most people are taking a risk, they don't understand what they're taking. Then lastly, it's a matter of time. And there are ways to position yourself as a deal architect that you have the least time, money, or time or work in the process than other people. It's really critical that you understand that you cannot implement this business if you can't do the time management. If you can't do time management, you can't implement the business. It's impossible. So it's really critical that you can know that this work process, the time commitment, how do you scale it? Some of you, well, most of you in here have what's called a JOB. And in this market, you have high dollar JOBs, so it would be extremely painful for you not to be able to commit to the job that you have. And so bolting on a sideline business is super critical to the potential success of that. Okay, so what's a note? Everybody knows what a flip this house is. Everybody knows what a tenant is. What's a note? Well, a note can be a car note, but tonight we're going to talk about mortgage notes. You're being the bank. Okay? So how does this work? So buyer buys a house from seller. In order to do that, the seller is going to have to convey ownership to the buyer. That's called a deed. Okay? And they convey ownership to the buyer, and unless the buyer has all cash, then what do? They get a loan, and they sign a what? They sign a note, a promise to pay. A check is a note. Okay? So they sign the note, and it's payable to the lender. Now, when I own or finance a property, this is the First National Bank of Eddie. So the bank could be a national bank or a mortgage company, or it could be a private lender. But it's somebody that's loaning the money, and they're acting what? As the bank. The bank owns the note, and the bank can do whatever they want to with the note. If that loan was $100,000, Richard could buy that note from the lender and pay him $50,000. Or $150,000, or $5,000. What he pays for that note has nothing to do with what the buyer, the homeowner, owes on the note. So if the lender sells the note at a discount, you're entitled to collect all that is owed on the note. That's why typically in the what we call the discount note business, the interest on your investment is higher than the interest rate written on the note. It's because of that discount that's true. Does that make sense to you? Okay, so we're generally going to talk about two types of notes that someone can buy. First of all, performing notes. And I'm going to give you kind of a wagon wheel in a moment of different kinds of notes. More are performing than non-performing, one of which has already been suggested tonight, which is seller financing. But there's many different dimensions of this, and as we progress, I'm going to continue and walk through many different possibilities with performing notes. And the other one, which you hear about all the time, is non-performing notes, defaulted loans. Okay? So we generally think of performing notes as being a pretty passive investment. It can be extremely passive investment. It is, I believe, the single best investment that you could make with a self-directed retirement account. I don't think there's anything better than you could buy for a self-directed retirement account than a quality performing note that just makes a payment every month and you get a check. Now there's some very smart things that you could do with performing notes, and while your fingers are passive, your mind is active. And I'm going to give you an example of that in a case study tonight, of how you can make a very active decision with your mind, but you're not really doing physically a lot of work. Okay? And then obviously to buy non-performing notes, it's a pretty active investment. So you're buying a loan and you've got to walk yourself through the process. It's very profitable, that's why people do it, but it takes a little more time and a commitment for knowledge. So I look at everything about real estate investing or notes as really sort of a puzzle. Okay? And there's different pieces of the puzzle, and what we're going to talk about tonight are the note niches in 2017. So first of all, you could do non-performing notes, and those notes cost about 20 to 70% of the balance of the note that's owed. So you buy them at a deep discount, about 20 to 70%. You can buy performing notes, and those notes trade at a very wide range of about 60 to 90 cents on the dollar. Some people pay closer to 100 cents on the dollar for performing notes, depending on the interest rate of the note and the quality of the loan. And we'll give you enough examples before I leave here this weekend that you'll get a good sense of this. Then you get into opportunities like owner financing. Okay? Buying with owner financing, selling with owner financing. I'll give you a couple examples of this. When you're in a market right now that is hot, maybe overpriced, and you can't buy at a deep discount, what strategies are you doing to increase the value of your buy? What are you doing? What do you do about this? I mean, the buyer feels pretty independent. They don't want a discount. And they're getting blown up every day with other potential people making a buy. How many of you have passed on a property in the last 2 years because you couldn't agree on the price? Anybody passed on a property? Are you just not going to raise your hand? You're not going to participate with me? Are you telling me nobody in the room's made an offer on a house in the last 2 years that somebody turned down? Right? It happened to anybody in the room? Should it have happened to everybody in the room? Yes? No? I don't know. What if you bought on terms and gave them the price they wanted? What if you bought on terms? Listen, anybody got a house they would sell me tonight? Does anybody in the room have a house they would sell me tonight? One lady goes like this. What would you like for it? Give me a number. $5 million. What do you think an appraiser would say it's worth? 4.2. I'll pay $5 million. Would you be willing to sign a contract tonight if I would pay the $5 million price on the house that is really only worth 4.2? Would you sign a contract? This is yes. This is no.
Depends on the terms.
Let me pick the terms and you pick the price.
Just say yes.
I can out-trade the pants off of you. That's a southern expression. I can out-trade you substantially if you let me pick the terms. Am I right, Richard?
Absolutely.
I can financially explode this deal. Okay? How many of you regularly do that on deals that you do? You see, you're not thinking like a note person. How many of you, is there any like foreign nationals here in this area? Like people from foreign countries? I'm just asking. How many of you might find a foreign national that's a green card holder that has a huge down payment and that would buy a house from you if you would be the bank because they can't get traditional financing at a bank? Is there anybody like that around here, Tom? See, these are opportunities that a note guy thinks about. Neither one of which are price-sensitive transactions. Am I right, Tom? They're no longer price-sensitive, they're terms-sensitive. This is a lot of different ways that you can make money in real estate that I believe a lot of people in real estate always ignore because they don't know how to think this way. And once you do, you'll never go back. Also, turnkey properties. I have a lot to say about turnkey properties and how to make money with financing turnkey properties to investors that are thrilled with the deal. It's a good deal for the investor. It's an incredible deal for you. So if we have time to unfold this on Saturday, I'm going to tell you a lot bigger story about turnkey properties and how this works. Okay? So what I title this presentation is 2017's biggest niches in notes. There's 6 of them. The 6 biggest niches in notes. Number 1, buying a property with owner financing. When we get to a deal, when we get to Saturday, I'm going to tell you about a typical deal that I may do that's different than what you may be thinking, but it's going to unfold the picture of the opportunity. Okay? Re-performing notes. These are loans that the mortgage lenders had. They probably got sold to a hedge fund. They've modified the loans. They're paying again. And these loans can be bought in the marketplace. Very, very little understand niche that is a huge market niche of re-performing loans. These are loans that the banks or the hedge fund modified, and these people are paying again. They've reestablished a good pay history. And these are typically really low interest rate loans written at 2 or 3% interest. Does that sound bad? 2 or 3% interest. How many of you want to go buy a loan at 2 or 3% interest?
What discount?
The smartest note investor in this room just raised his hand. Is everybody going to raise your hand with him? Because he understands when you buy that note at a discount, you don't give a flip what the interest rate is on the note. And he knows that that bad boy pays off early. You're going to get to earn the profit earlier than you anticipated, which does what to your return on your investment? You got it. Non-performing notes. Non-performing notes is the last frontier of the distressed real estate. It's the last frontier of distressed real estate, and it's a very big market, and it could be a very big market opportunity for you. If you're having struggles buying price, non-performing notes are the way to get your cost of the investment way down. One-off seller finance notes. There's a huge pile of seller finance notes that were generated. We went about 5 or 6 years, and 50% of people that made a mortgage application were turned down. If you're buying a property in about 15 states today, the average price of that house is less than $100,000. And trust me, if it's less than $80,000, they're not getting a conventional mortgage at the bank. So there's a lot of, you can't wrap your mind around this, but there's some really, really safe neighborhood, solid payers that the only way on God's green earth they're going to have home ownership today is seller financing. Okay? And there is and I'm going to give you some examples of that as we progress. Multi-note seller financiers. That is what Lori was. Lori bought bulk houses, and Lori worked with a big network of people, all of which I knew a lot of them really well, and they owner financed houses, and now they want to then turn around and liquidate and sell the note. I'll have an example tonight of somebody that bought one such note like this from somebody that owner financed a lot of properties. Okay? And to round out number 6 is turnkey seller financing properties. Okay? So I only have 4 hours tonight is what she told me. So, I tell you what, look, can we make a deal? Can I address a couple of these fairly lightly and do you one case study and say, this is showing you, this is how big this market is. The note business is a lot more than people generally perceive it to be and understand it. So it's going to take some time. And as we progress, so I'm going to talk a little bit about non-performing notes tonight. I'm going to talk a little bit with about 2 or 3 examples of one-off seller finance notes. And then I'm going to talk about an example of a guy that bought one note that was sourced from a guy that owned a whole bunch of notes. And you're going to see a case study of how he did that with a self-directed retirement account. All right? So number 1, retail seller financing. This is where an individual owner finances a property, and that became a very common practice when the mortgage companies were out of business. And on low price band real estate, they're still out of business. This number that Tom gave you tonight of home ownership compared to investors, if it's 63 and 30 or 27 on every house in the United States, Tom, what do you think it would be on houses less than 80 grand? It would be about 90% renters and 10% home ownership because of this market inefficiency that relates to they can't get a traditional mortgage. That is good news. Because I make opportunity out of market inefficiencies. Okay? So we're going to talk about how you could come in and buy an owner finance transaction that somebody's created and there's not the pressure in the market to buy these notes. So I was very big in this market since the 1980s, buying owner-financed notes. In the 1990s, if you owned an owner-financed note, and I'm not exaggerating, you would get 30 to 50 letters in your mailbox in a month trying to buy your note. You might get one today. This is a terribly underserved, under-pursued market. Terribly. These could be notes on houses, they could be notes on land, they could be notes on light commercial or industrial. So if people say, well, what does that look like? So guess what I did? I put some examples together so you can see a deal. And these are all three notes that we bought. Okay? So the first one, this is a house. And the loan balance was $41,761. This was in Jacksonville, Florida, I think. I don't know if Martha bought this deal or not. I think my wife bought at least one or two of these deals. It was a 6% note. Their payment is $498 a month, and there were 109 payments remaining. So they owed how much? Okay, the property was worth $65,000 is what a local realtor says it's worth, and we bought this note for $28,500. Oh, now you're interested. And let me just tell you this, and there's several people in this room that know me well. I didn't cook the books and go find the best 3 deals we did last year. I went in and went over and asked my guy that runs acquisitions. I said, give me an example of a trade you've just closed on a house, on a piece of dirt, and on a commercial. He said, hey, how about these 3? I said, okay. This is a dirt deal. That mobile home sitting on that land is not part of the collateral. They live there, but it's not part of the collateral. They owe a bank or they paid cash or something. This loan balance was $18,485. Their rate was 10.5%. Their payment's $236 a month. There's 133 payments remaining. That is a land-only collateral deal. Just dirt. So that mobile home right there is not part of the collateral. Is everybody clear about that? We bought this note. The land's worth $55,000. Now, understand, we didn't buy the land. We bought what? No. We bought the note on the land, and that note cost $12,900. How many of you would do that deal? This is a bed and breakfast. This is by the way, all 3 of those deals I bought out from institutional investors because they turned them down, and I'm not making this up. There's a network of brokers around the United States that sell notes to like some banks, and they are so picky that all 3 of those notes and a whole pile of others that I buy all the time, the banks wouldn't buy those notes. Okay? So I'm saying, when I keep telling you underserved, market deficiency, this is why I'm saying that. I don't know what you think's a deal, but I've been buying these kind of notes for 37 years. Hoss, that's a deal. I like a deal when you don't need a calculator. This is a bed and breakfast in New York, and my wife bought this note. Okay, in her retirement account, the loan balance was $68,000. It was 4% interest. $573 a month, 158 payments remaining. The property, no kidding, was worth $500,000. And old Martha, Richard, old Martha slipped in there with her retirement account, and she buys this note for $45,000. Those are real examples of retail seller finance notes. That is a market condition. And so when people are in the Bay Area and they live in a house that looks, I'm not saying any of you live in a house that looks like that one in Florida, but you've seen houses like that That's what that house is worth, is $65, and there was an owner finance note that was bought for less than half of the property value. It probably had an annual return on its investment of probably somewhere in the low teens. And Richard knows that that $28,000 investment pays off early, your yield on your investment is going to go. Do you like this? This is what I do. And I'm not enamored with what the zip code of these properties are, because I don't intend to own any of them. I just intend to have a loan servicer service the loan and wire a payment to us every month. These people on these loans, I can tell you right now, they're not going to default. If they did, I'd be good. Everybody agree with that? If they did, I'd be good, but I'm not hoping for them to have bad luck. Non-performing notes. It's basically the only market left where these assets are going to cost 30 to 65 cents on the dollar. It's the last frontier in buying distressed assets. That's really where we are in the market today. You have to make sure you understand that you must have a better strategy than calling a local realtor. Am I right, Prakash? If you ain't got a better strategy than calling a local realtor, don't play in this space. I don't care what anybody says on the internet, you're going to get murdered if your only strategy is dealing with a local realtor. So that's what Note School is going to teach you how to do. We're going to teach you how to do it smarter and better, because you're going to understand financing strategies that local realtors don't understand. And as you progress in Note School, this will make 100. Am I right about this, Prakash? This is the magic of the business, is understanding that you become a deal architect that local realtors aren't. How many of you think you could know more about financing a deal than a local realtor? Huh? Well, that's what you're going to do. So when you buy a defaulted loan, you can either modify the loan, you can get them to deed it back over to you, basically sign it back over to the lender. It's called a deed in lieu of foreclosure, or you can do a foreclosure process. Okay? If you can't modify the loan, then you got two choices left. So modification's gone away, maybe they moved off, maybe it's vacant. If you can't modify it, either one of these are going to cause you to do what with the property? You're going to be back in the real estate business, and your investment in this note is way less than if you had bought the property. That's why you buy non-conforming notes. Now, I hope for the best, and I hope I can modify it, but I don't ever guarantee it. I like to say something like this. I don't know how to stick a thermometer in that deal's mouth and tell you exactly what's going to happen. I can tell you the odds, but I can only just tell you the odds. Past that, you got to figure it out. But your cost basis, trust me, it's going to be way less than if you'd have bought the property. People say, how many non-performing notes are there out there? And according to the press, that's DS News, Housing Wire, Realty Track, all of which that have written quite a bit about us in the last few years. According to their press, they sold $20 billion worth of non-performing notes in the last 12 months. I don't know what you call enough is, but there ain't no shortage of inventory. There is not any shortage of inventory. Let me say it again. There is not a shortage of inventory. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take questions at the end because she only gave me 4 hours tonight. And I didn't tell you guys at the beginning of it, so it's a fair question. So to hold your question if you would, or write it down so you don't forget it, and I'd love to talk about it at the end. Is that fair? Thank you for that. Okay, so let's talk about multi-note seller financiers. These are people that are professional real estate investors that use owner financing when they sell properties on a recurring basis. And that may not be true in downtown San Jose, but that is a very common model across the country, and that is a very significant underserved market. There is not, Tom, an institutional investor today that is serving the needs of this guy that owns all this paper. It doesn't exist. And as I told you, I'm riding this pony as fast as I can because I know how to smell an underserved market. So there are real estate investors that would create seller financing. We pioneered this in the 1990s with a company called Home Investors. and many other real estate investors, so we became very good at this, and we are on this pony, riding it hard right now. And I teach a lot of students how to do this because, quite honestly, I don't have enough hands and feet to do it all myself. People say, why would you train everybody to do this? I'm in a market that if there were 1,000 of us, there wouldn't be enough to serve the market. So if I teach you how to do this, might there be some potential that you could then make money with me in some manner, right? So I'm training an army. Okay. So people ask me all the time, what is a note worth? What do you pay for a note? Eddie has all these PowerPoints of loan balance and interest rate and payment. Then he says what they paid for it. What'd they do? Flip a coin? How do they figure out what to pay for it? So this is what I'm going to say to you that I have never heard another trainer in the note business say. But this is how it really works. A note is valued based on 6 characteristics. And here's what they are. First of all, the guy that owes the money, the buyer. The collateral, the property securing payment of the note. The buyer's equity. Does he have 20% equity? Does he have 50% equity? Or is he underwater and does he owe more than it's worth? The terms on the loan, how long it's payable, and what's the interest rate on the note. And you've seen good examples in some case studies already tonight. One note's 10.5%, one note's 4%. Right? Could that affect the discount? Absolutely. The payment history, how long they've paid and how well they've paid. Now, if I'm buying a loan with a guy with an 800 credit score and 25% down, I might buy that note when the ink's wet. But if I'm buying a loan that there's some deficiencies, the credit's not great, the down payment's not great, would you then buy it after 3 years of a perfect pay history? So that's an example of how pay history can produce a redeeming factor. All right? And then lastly, the paperwork, how it's written. I teach to buy loans that are legally compliant. I don't teach to buy illegal loans. As we progress, it'll start making sense as to what this means. Those are the 6 characteristics that are going to influence the value of a note. This guy formerly lived in right out here somewhere. I can't tell you the name of the town, but he was an IT guy, and he's a software engineer type, and he lives somewhere out here. Brooks Johnson, he now lives about 6 months a year in Raleigh, North Carolina, and about 6 months a year he lives on a sailboat. Good guy. We have a note trade show every November in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and it's called Note Expo. So this guy, last year, amongst our high-end students, won the Performing Case Study of the Year award, voted on by the students. So Vikash, you probably voted on this. This guy won the award. So people say, what does an award-winning note deal look like? So when we get done, I'll let you decide whether my students voted correctly or they gave the old boy something they shouldn't have. Okay? Nice guy, Brooks Johnson. This house is not in his zip code. It's not within 2 states of his zip code. It's in Cincinnati, Ohio. And a real estate investor that created hundreds of owner-financed notes bought this note and resold it with owner financing. Now they sold it to a guy that's using it as a rental property. This property rents for $750 a side, and it's a duplex. So it has really good income. So it had a strong selling point. The guy has, it's well kept. A local realtor, and I'm not making this up. A local realtor goes out there and does a broker price opinion of value on this property and comes back and says it's worth 50 grand. You couldn't make this stuff up. You could not make this stuff up. That low BPO became one of the reasons that Brooks bought this deal at the discount he bought it at. Now, we sold it to him. So we have a capital fund. We buy them by the case, sell them by the bottle. So we bought it low because the BPO was low, and we sold it to him and passed on the savings. Okay? The title was good and the taxes were paid. Performing note. So Brooks buys this note. They owe $62,997. Interest rate was a tick under 8%. And 224 payments remaining. Brooks funds this deal in his Roth IRA account, and he pays $42,000 for this note. Now, if you liked all the supporting paperwork, how many of you would be okay with that trade? Are you good with that? So that was Brooks' price for the note. When he bought it, there were 16 payments already made on the note before he bought it. So they're gone away, and that becomes a big factor because the loan balance is slightly less now, and that pay history becomes a redeeming factor, right? Because they've now established they're paying good. Okay? That was what Brooks bought, and his self-directed retirement account funded the balance of those payments, $538 a month. And that's what his retirement account is entitled to collect, the monthly payment for 224 months. Is this making sense to everybody? Everybody with me? So Brooks buys a note that they owed $64,875. He buys it for 65 cents on the dollar, primarily because of what? The low BPO. The low BPO drove the price. He pays $42,000 for this. So that's the loan balance, that's the discounted percentage, and that's his price. Okay? So let's go back and take the formula that I gave you, the 6 characteristics that influence the value of a note, and let's lay over Brooks' deal on top of this. Let's look at the theory and then apply the theory to the deal. Okay? So here's the 6 characteristics. First of all, I would say he did not have a full financial package on the buyer. Just because the company that sold hundreds of these, that Lori and I know, they just didn't underwrite it that well. Okay? I don't mean they don't have any information on him, but it's not going to look like a full Fannie Mae package. Okay? It's a nice duplex. The truth of the matter is, it's got a low BPO, and the house is really worth more than the BPO. Okay? BPO stands for what? Broker price opinion, the realtor's opinion of value. So the BPO was $50,000. Probably is really worth about $75,000. Why did the realtor give such a low value? Why'd they do that? No, hell no, he went in there and ran comps. When you're looking at a house that comps out at $50,000, Richard, what's every comp going to be? Retail with financing or cash sale? You got it. And by the way, all the turnkey guys don't use realtors. Those comps aren't in the MLS. So it drives me crazy that people think that value's $50,000. If anybody knows how to run a calculator and has any perception of how to run what the income approach of a property is, like Tom is an expert at, there's no way that's a $50,000 house. There's no physical way that's the truth. That is a market inefficiency. Is it starting to smell like an opportunity? We make money on market opportunities because there's inefficiency. I smell my way. When everybody's chasing a deal, I've been doing this for 37 years. I don't chase the deals that everybody else is chasing. That's dumb. That doesn't sound like an entrepreneur. It sounds like you're following the herd. That's not where am I right, Tom? If you're following the herd, you're not chasing that's why you invest a lot in outside this market, right? Because you have figured out strategies to go chase things that other people are missing. So this loan has a 224 payments remaining. And when I see that long-term note, rookie investors go, oh my God, I'd have to wait 224 months to get my money back. And I look at it and go, no, that bad boy's probably going to pay off early. And that discount is going to be juice. So that 224 months, to me, sounds like an opportunity. The next thing is, they got about a solid 2-year pay history. The paperwork is good. It was written under a contractual agreement called a land contract. It is a legal, enforceable document, but it's a little bit of a weird factor. There's a little slight weird factor to it, and that's why these banks won't buy this stuff, because they don't think they can explain it to an examiner. That is good, David. That's good. When a bank is out of the game because they're worried about explaining it to some examiner and it's legal and compliant, and a private investor can buy it because the bank examiners are too dumb to understand it, that's good. Okay, so the annual interest rate on Brooks's investment is 14.31%. How many of you are in so far? You in the deal with me? We got any no's? I mean, I know you haven't seen every piece of information, but so far, does this look like something you'd consider? Okay, me too. And I sold it to him. But I sold about 1,000 loans like this last year. So here's what the principal owed looks like, is the top of the yellow line. The green arc is how he amortizes the principal on his investment. So this is just a picture of Excel. When I'm in Apple land, I know you guys get this. Okay? This is Apple land, isn't it? Okay. So the borrower owes this, and Brooks invested this, and look at the difference between the yellow line and the green line. What could that mean to me? If it paid off early, I'm gonna earn extra profit quicker than I thought I was gonna earn it, right? So that discount, to me, starts showing me an opportunity. All right, so if I owned a pizza place, could I make profit if it cost me $6 to make it and I sold it for 10? Could I make a profit? How else could I make a profit? Sell it by the slice? So if I sold that pizza for $2 a slice, how much do I have invested in the back half of that pizza? If it cost me $6 to make it. If you can do it to a pizza, you can do it to a note. All right, now here's the part that's a little risky for me as a speaker. Because I'm gonna give you some numbers, and you may not follow every number the very first time. And I know your aptitude in here, and I got all that. But don't get wrapped around the axle, this guy killed him. Okay? But I've color-coded it just so you can follow the transaction. The note itself is color-coded in yellow. So when you see yellow, that's what the borrower owes. Okay? Brooks's investment is lime green. Brooks sells the front end of his pizza. His note. And that is going to be blue. So Brooks buys this note for $42 grand. He buys the right to receive 224 payments. The first thing he does is he collects 4 payments on this note, totaling $2,154. So to have a third-party servicer, they just wired the money to him. Then Brooks goes out and finds a passive investor, and they buy 100 months for him, and they write Brooks a check for $42,000. So Brooks, in his Roth IRA account, owns the back end of that. Oh, this investor that paid $42, he's going to get about $54 back, and that means he earns just over a 6% annual return on the interest on his investment. Okay? And that's not unfair for a passive investor. I promise you. Am I right, Richard? There's tons of passive investors that would be thrilled with that deal, And my wife deals with lots of people that are super happy with that, and they want her to do all the brain damage, and she's got it all packaged up. Okay? So this investor earns just over 6% return. Brooks owns the backside of this note, 120 months, and it's just residual income. Okay? And Brooks is going to get back another $64,000. So on Brooks's investment, after he's recouped his money after 4 payments, he's going to make $67,000 on a 4-month investment of $42,000. Is there something to this deal architect thing? I'm just asking you. Is there something to this deal architect thing? This is what deal architects do. Now, the passive investor, I always have to sit in his seat and understand what his world looks like. So he has a loan that is serviced by a loan servicer, and every month they just wire the money to the investor. Is that passive? Okay? In other words, you don't have to go physically do anything for your investment to make money. Oh, I know what that sounds like. The stock market. That's why the stock market grew so big. The stock market grew big because it's a mindless, brainless, effortless investment. Now you can put it at the bank. Well, if you put it at the bank, he'd earn about 8 times less than this on the interest rate. So he gets 6%, and he doesn't have to do anything. So that's Brooks' guy, because that investor wants the easy button. Okay? So let's go back and look at the math. So Brooks invests in a note that they owe $62,997. He pays $42. He sells the front end for $42 for 100 months. Everybody with me on how the money flowed? Now look at the chart now. Orange is what they owe. Green is what his investment is if he didn't sell the front end of the note. And blue is when he sold the front of the note. Okay? So he sells 100 months of this note. At the end of 100 months, you go up, and that's what they're going to owe at the end of this 100-month period. You go over here, and Brooks is going to get a note back, and they're going to owe him about $45,000 plus interest for the next 120 months. So Brooks owns, if it doesn't pay off early, Brooks owns the back half of that note with 10 years left. Is everybody following the math here? Yes?
Yes.
All right. You remember that part about me saying that loan could pay off early? So Brooks starts paying attention to the difference between the top of the orange line and the top of the blue line. Because if that loan pays off early, Brooks is going to earn that spread. Now, I don't care how long you've been doing this, and I don't care how many deals, and I've bought about 40,000 notes. I don't care how long you've been doing this. Anybody that says they can nail it and they know this is going to happen without knowing that a loan is in the process of being underwritten for a payoff, you're just throwing a dart. But Brooks understood if it paid off early, it would be good for him. Does everybody believe that? He didn't know it was going to pay off early. He just knew if it did, it was going to be really good. So, after the partial investor, the guy in the blue, collects 9 payments, the title company calls the servicer. And they say, we need to wire the payoff on this loan you're servicing. So the investor in blue is going to get the white line dot. Brooks gets the difference between the top of the blue and the top of the orange. So you see the black line dot going through the yellow. The loan payoff was $61,321. The investor who bought the 100 months after he collected 9 payments was still entitled to collect the balance of his investment. This would work very similar to just a private loan. Just the same math, same amortization. So the investor gets $39,032. Brooks gets $22,288. So here's the math. Brooks collects 4 payments, then he sells 100 months for $42,000. He takes his $42,000 investment that he gets, and the investor collects 9 payments. The investor collects $5,252. The loan pays off. The investor gets a total of the 42 and the 55, minus the 55. So he is entitled to the unamortized balance of the investment of $39,000. And then Brooks collects the difference between the loan balance and what the investor's entitlement is what we call it. And Brooks gets the $22,000. So here's the bottom line. Brooks makes a $24,442 investment on a 4-month investment of $42,000. No, he only had his capital invested for 4 months. Then he got his money back. Then he's like, I don't care if it pays off early. If it pays off early, I'm good. Either way, I'm good. Okay? Okay, so let me ask you a question now. Do you think it was fair that they voted Brooks to win Performing Case Study of the Year award? Was that a fair vote? Honestly, when we have this event at the end of the year, we have dozens of transactions that this was a good story, and part of the story makes it, but we have dozens of transactions. This is what this business is. What did Brooks have to do to be able to do this? What components did Brooks have to be able to do? You have to be a deal architect. Most people would have left a lot of money on the table because they didn't know how to carve it up. This is not brain surgery, but this is not natural thinking. You're not going to snow ski well unless you get a skiing lesson, okay? You're not going to do notes well unless you get some lessons from people that start building a framework of how to look at this stuff. This typical transaction is something that anybody, certainly in this room, can learn to be super skilled and execute on a regular basis. Okay, so buying property with seller financing, we're going to talk about that a lot more on Saturday, but I gave you an example of how you could buy properties and get them to seller financing for you. And now you see that you can make a bargain buy even if you essentially overpay. So for your house that's really worth $4.2 and you want to sell it to me for $5 million, I could pay you $1,000 a month. At the end of 40 years, I could pay at 0 interest, and I could pay you the balance that's due. I paid you the price. Now, see, you're shaking your head saying, I wouldn't do that. What I'm going to have time to do on Saturday is to tell you what I have seen people do. Because I will tell you from experience, there's a lot of people that have a property that is not in a condition that it can be sold or immediately financeable, or it's in an estate, or they're just struck on price. And if you're buying properties and you never try acquisition techniques using them to seller finance it for you, you are probably leaving some significant money on the table. Okay? But you got to get some structure, and you got to kind of get some sense of how you do that. So that's part of what, that's not all that Note School teaches, but it makes sense to go learn some of that, right? So to go back, the niches and notes, this business today in 2017, I would say these are all underserved markets. I didn't address all of them tonight. I will address all of them on Saturday, and as you progress with other training, we'll progress at a deeper and deeper level of what this means. What my desire for you is this. The First National Bank, I want it to be the First National Bank of you. I want you to learn to be the bank. And you can see that every transaction I put up there tonight, it doesn't take $1 zillion to do it. It takes what? It takes some understanding of market inefficiencies and how you go do it. So we have some home study courses, and we have a 3-day intense class. Okay? So we tie these together. I'm going to give you some bonuses with these classes. First of all, I'm going to say to you that the best way to teach this business is to go back and forth from foundational principles or certain issues that you have to understand the rules to, and then apply that to a regular deal. Use a case study and do that, and that is our style of teaching. I've given you an example of that tonight. But everything that we would do as we progress in training, we're going to get deeper and deeper into backing into what was the thought process and what would you analyze and how would you figure out how to start drawing on a blank piece of paper and carve up this deal in a way that makes sense. So we'll progress you in this process. We're going to give you a ticket to the class, and then I'm going to give you a bonus. And the bonus is, I'm going to let you bring a family member or a business partner. Let me repeat myself really clearly. A family member or a legitimate business partner. That means you have an active business with them and you can both sign them a checking account. Okay? So I'm not going to be flexible on the conditions of that, but if you have that situation, and many of you do, I'm going to let you bring this family member or business partner to the class, and I'm not going to charge you any more money. I'm going to give you that as a bonus. Secondly, I'm going to give you a home study course. This is a course on buying non-performing notes. So this is a course that I taught, and I taught this course a zillion times, changed it hundreds of times, and this is now a course that has very good home-based principles that you can learn about buying non-performing notes. Legal issues, property issues, structure issues, all related to non-performing notes. Okay? There's also a course on buying performing notes that is a course that we taught live for a long time called Rich Rewards and Real Estate Notes. So that math, that talking about buying seller finance notes and using a marketing strategy to go find those notes, those are all principles that we cover the basis of when we get to a class. The reason I do that, the reason I'm giving you these home study courses is so when we come to the live class, I can up your game. Otherwise, you'd have to go spend more time with the live class, and I'd rather be able to do it in this way and save all this time. And some of these modules that you're studying, you're going to want to look at these more than one time. You're going to want to watch them over and over. Then when you come to the class, we're going to sit down with you and talk about really two important things: mapping out a plan and implementation. There's several people in this room that know me really well, and this statement totally makes sense to them. I got no value in useless information. I got no value in showing you how to do something to make you, increase your intellect and you not have execution. My heart is that you execute on this business. So we're going to sit down with you and talk about what that means for you and what that looks like. How to outsource things, how to utilize your resources, what your family situation is, what your time situation is, kind of what cycle, what chapter you are in your life. And all of that would be not exactly the same blueprint for everybody. So we make adjustments depending on what we see in that regard. So we're going to give you 2 home study courses, 2 tickets to the class, and we're going to discount it. So instead of $2,000, we're going to sell it for $997. So that's the 3-day advanced class. And some of you that are not coming on Saturday, then you may want to go on and do this tonight, because we're going to be back here in August, and I would say to you right now that everything that we talked about tonight, we're just going to be able to slow it down, so we can get you to where all these building blocks are making sense to you. Okay? We have these classes. I think we have 9 classes scheduled to the end of the year. Maybe it's 10, but they're all over the country, and we do have one coming here in San Francisco area in the 1st of August. But that doesn't mean you have to come to that class. You're not buying a date, you're buying the right to come to the class. So the delay, I'll do it later, I'll do it tomorrow. later is one of the most abused drugs that's available to us. And the reality is, it kind of makes things go away. I'll do it. I know that. I tell my wife, honey, don't worry, I'll get to that. But the reality is, here's what I'm going to say to you. My job as a trainer is to appeal to you and show you a business and show you how a business can be done and how it works. And I would say to you that the number one mark of an entrepreneur is that they act on an opportunity. So, when we say later, usually we think what? We usually believe when we say later, I'll really get to it later. But in life, a lot of times that doesn't happen, and that's why I'm saying I don't want you to wait for later to make this work. So, if you want to come do the classes with us, how about that? If you want to come do the classes with us, then that's what the process is. We're going to have the same thing on Saturday. It won't be a different price. So there's no trickery. If you want to wait Saturday to do it, I'm totally good. But some of you had told Lori that you couldn't be there on Saturday, and we understood that. She said, so tell them what they can buy on Saturday night, and that you can do the same deal. Now back to this. On Saturday, we're going to spend a day, and we're going to take a lot of examples, and I'm going to show you these deal architecture deals. I'll have more time, and I've finished tonight, Lori, just about exactly when I told everybody I'd finish. Okay? So I tried not to wear you out tonight, but we're gonna spend all day on Saturday, and I'm gonna spend about the hour that I've spent with you tonight, about an hour and 15 minutes I've spent with you tonight. I'm just going to have a lot more time on Saturday to do it. So basically the class will be 9 to 4 on Saturday. Lori, so I don't mess this up.
Yes.
Make sure that you tell them what the special you're going to do is.
So the early bird special was $47, and that ended on Tuesday. So right now, if you go out and register online, it's going to be $77. But because you're in the room tonight, I'm telling you, you can go out online and register. And as you're registering, there's a place where it says promo code. You put in the promo code EDDIE30, capital E, lowercase DDIE 30. No spaces. You click the apply button and you will see that 77 go down to 47. Okay? And that gets you in to see Eddie for a whole day of great education. Okay?
And it'll be here.
Right here, in this room.
And by the way, don't show up at 9 because registration, they got to get you checked in. And if you've ever been to an Eddie training, when it ticks 9 o'clock,
we're starting.
We're going. So be here an appropriate amount of time to get checked in and find your seat. And we got about 75 people already registered, right, Lori?
Yeah.
So you know, this will be a good group. It won't be too big, but it'll be a good group. And so on Saturday, some of the time I'll like open it up for questions and let us kind of really get creative. And sometimes I'll be like locked in to like get us through the information. And so you were kind enough to hold your question tonight, and I'll answer it when we get back here at the end. So here's what the deal is. So Martha, my wife, is going to be, if you want to sign up for the classes, she'll be at one end of the table, and you can do the 3-day classes. That's if you can't come on Saturday, or you're just so fired up you can't wait. And that's fine. And then for those of you that want to sign up tonight for the classes, you've got, they're doing it online though, right?
Online. Do it online with the promo code. Otherwise, I have to charge you $77. Okay,
so you got the promo code on that. I'll be outside and answer questions. Do y'all like this? I will tell you this. I've been doing this now. I started in 1980, so I've been basically doing this 37 years. And I can't believe that I was lucky enough to find a business. And I like the things that you guys do, but I think what I tried to bring you guys tonight was some examples of how you can get a foothold in this business. And you can buy seller finance notes in California. It's not that you can't. They'll be more expensive because the price band of property is more expensive. But there's all kind of different applications to this. And what I would love to do is to see you progress, and so that I want to get to the point where I can see those wheels turning in your head of kind of, oh, I could do this, or here's the possibility, or it could look this way. And that's what my real desire is for all of us as we progress and you learn this business, is you're unstoppable when you build this combination in your head of what all the possibilities are. And it's a progression. I don't have a shot. I can't give you a shot at the back door and give it. So it's a progression to do it, but it's in my years, I would say that it's changed my life. I got some kids you'll hear about on Saturday, and I think that they're getting to go live their dreams, but yet they get to go be active in the business, and it's a fun deal. So I'll look forward to any of you having questions. I'll try to answer them back there, and we'll see you on Saturday, and we'll progress up the ladder, okay? Thank you very much.